power doesn't just alter us, it alters the people around us. And I call this the lens of power. So I'm going to explain this, but let me start with a true or false question. So what do you think, true or false? The higher you rise in management, the better you are at judging character. True or false? Well, you know, you'd think it would be true because you've probably hired more people, promoted more people, fired more people, coached more people. So your ability to judge people's characters really should improve. But actually the answer is false, right? And the reason it's false is because the higher up you go, the more powerful you become. And the more powerful you become and the greater your impact, the more motivated people are to change their behavior towards you, right? So your gain in power is matched by a drop in their authenticity, right? Other people are changing their behavior to impress you. They're putting on an act for you. And you're probably not aware of it. Actually, they're probably not aware of it, right? This is not necessarily conscious, right? So you're not judging people's character, you're really judging their act. So remember this from the earlier lesson, that power has an enormous impact on the people around us and it changes how they relate to us, right? And this makes it really hard for us to understand our impact on other people, right? We don't get an accurate self-reflection. So we can't measure how we're doing, right? And more importantly, we can't really measure how we're influencing the teams, the culture of our teams and the culture of our organizations. And so it's really like a vicious cycle. Like the higher you rise, the greater your impact. The greater your impact, the more people change their behavior. The more people change their behavior, the less accurate feedback you get and the less you know how you're impacting people, right? And so power influences so much whether people feel free to speak up, whether they'll tell us the truth, whether they'll contribute, take risks, make mistakes, right? And this has a huge impact on organizational culture, on decision making, and we've talked about this already. And this is something that you've probably already experienced, right? Let me ask you a question. Do you remember being promoted? How many of you were promoted from a former peer group, or in some way had a gain of rank over your former friends or teammates, right? What happened to you? Do you remember? You know, you went into work one day and you're a member of the team, and then the very next day you got a promotion and you go in and you're no longer you, right? You're the boss, and people start to change their behavior towards you right away. You might ask people a question that you asked the day before and you'll get a completely different answer. And the reason is that people think, you know, is this a test, or why is she asking me, or I better get the right answer, right? And so you're the same person, you have the same clothes, haircut, you had the same breakfast, but now everybody's treating you differently. And what you're probably noticing is that you're no longer you, right? You think to yourself, I'm just me, I'm the same person. But you're not, you're no longer you. You've now become like a symbol of authority, or a symbol of the organization, or a symbol of power, right? And so this is what I call the lens of power. People are viewing you through this distortion or this distorting mirror, this lens that makes everything you say bigger or more important or more definitive or more decisive, right? And so when you ask a simple question, they think maybe, you know, they suspect ulterior motives, right? They think something's going on. And this lens of power is like a two-way mirror, right? So when people look at you through the lens, right, at someone in power, it changes their behavior, right? And they're looking at somebody with a great deal of power. And I want to show you a clip. This is a humorous clip from the romantic comedy Notting Hill. And it shows this dynamic in a very funny way. So the protagonist of the story, Will, met a famous actor named Anna Scott, and who's shooting a film in London. And, you know, through the very typical romantic comedy encounters, they end up going on a date. And their very first date is a birthday party. So Will's younger sister is having a birthday party at his closest friend's house. So he takes this famous movie star, Anna, to his friend's house. And so in this first clip that I'm going to show you, Will arrives with Anna, And the hosts and his younger sister are just completely starstruck when they see Anna, right? And you can see the variety of reactions when they look at her, right? Through the lens of power. So they're looking at her through the lens of her power.
Hi, come on in, vague food crisis.
Hiya! Sorry, the guinea fowl is proving more complicated than expected.
He's cooking guinea fowl?
Don't even ask. Hi. Hi. Good Lord, you're the spitting image of...
Bella, this is Anna.
Right.
Okay, crisis over.
Max, this is Anna.
Hi.
Hello, Anna. Scott. Have some wine.
Thank you.
I'll get it.
Red or white?
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, yes, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Look, your brother's brought this little girl.
Hi, guys. Oh, holy fuck.
Hon, this is Anna. Anna, this is, honey, she's my baby sister.
Hi.
Oh, God, this is one of those key moments in life when it's possible you can be really genuinely cool, and I'm going to fail just 100%. I absolutely, totally and utterly adore you. And I just think you are the most beautiful woman in the world. And more importantly, I genuinely believe, and I've believed for some time now, that we could be best friends. So what do you think?
Lucky me. Oh, well, happy birthday.
Oh, you gave me a present. We're best friends already, then. Marry Will. He's a really nice guy. Then we can be sisters.
Well, I'll think about it.
So in this next clip, what I want to show you, we're in the same party, and the last friend arrives, and this friend has absolutely no idea who Anna is. Doesn't watch movies, doesn't really, see that she's a movie star at all. And he views her not through the lens of her power, but through the lens of his own power, his own inflated sense of power.
That'll be Bernie.
Hi. Hi, sorry I'm late. Bollocks stuff at work again, I fear. Millions down the drain.
Well done. Bernie, this is Anna.
Hello, Anna. Delighted to meet you.
And you?
Honey bunny, happy birthday to you. Hi, Bella.
Hi.
Mwah. It's a hat. I don't have to wear it or anything. Oh, well.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
What?
Wine, Bernie.
Mm.
You haven't slept with her, have you?
That is a cheap question, and the answer is, of course, no comment.
No comment means yes.
No, it doesn't.
Do you ever masturbate?
Definitely no comment.
See, it means yes.
So, tell me, Anna, what do you do?
I'm an actress.
Oh, splendid.
What do you do?
I'm actually in the stock market myself, so not really similar fields. Though I have done the odd bit of amateur stuff. P.G. Woodhouse, farce, all that, Careful there, Vicar. Always imagined it's a pretty tough job, though, acting. I mean, the wages are a scandal, aren't they?
They can be.
I see friends from university, clever chaps, been in the business longer than you. They're scraping by on 7,000-8,000 a year. It's no life. What sort of acting do you do?
Films, mainly.
Oh, splendid. Oh, well done. How's the pay in movies? I mean, last film you did, what did you get paid?
$15 million.
Right.
So it really makes for great comedy because you can see it's so real. When someone sees your power, it completely changes how they act. And when they don't see your power, right, and they just see their own power, well, they can be patronizing, they can be condescending, or both. It's also a useful clip because his own sense of power, his class, his economic wealth, his gender, makes him much less tuned into her signals, much more disinhibited. He was just telling his own stories, going on, and he was way more focused on his assumptions about who she was. This, unfortunately, is a use of power that many of us have to endure all the time, right? That if we're subject to somebody else's sense of superiority based on their gender, class, race, or positional power, whatever it may be, we have to endure that kind of sort of patronizing superior act. So back to the lens of power, though. When someone's looking through the lens of power, when someone views you or someone through the lens of power, what's happening to them? Well, first of all, like we saw in the clip, they can view you with awe and admiration, right? They put you up on a pedestal. They think you know better, that you can do better things, that you're smarter, so they want to please you. They're not going to speak up as much. They think that you just know best, right? But that's not the only thing that can happen. If you look at someone through the lens of power, we also know that people view people in authority with skepticism and mistrust. They don't trust people in authority. So the lens of power can mean that they're more closed, they're more suspicious, they're skeptical. So they're not going to share, they're not going to say things, not because they feel less than, but because they don't trust you. There's also security issues, right? So when people look at you through the lens of power, they could be afraid for their own job or livelihood or security. They could think that their job depends on you or the promotion depends on you. They don't want to lose a job, so they're going to play it safe. They don't want to make mistakes. They're not going to take risks. They're not going to speak up because maybe they're going to get it wrong. And then there's also ambition. This is the next thing. So when people look at you through the lens of power, they could see that you're somebody who could help them with their career. So maybe they just constantly lobby to you. They want you to support their pet idea or their pet project. Or maybe they think you're standing in their way, right? They think, well, if it wasn't for you, I'd be in that position, right? So the ambition also makes them just see you as a competitor or as a rival. And finally, looking at you through the lens of power, people have incredible expectations on people in power, right? So they think you can do amazing things, that you can get things done that they can't. And they don't understand that just because you have more rank or more positional power, you still have obstacles. You just have different ones, but you still have obstacles. But we have incredible expectations on people in power. We think that they can do amazing things. And we think they should, and when they don't, when we're disappointed, we criticize them and we think they're just idiots. Why can't they get that done? So all of these things are happening. Ambition, awe, admiration, skepticism, mistrust, high expectations happen when we look at someone through the lens of power. What's the cost to you personally? Think about your development. Think about it from a personal point of view. When you have rank or you have power and people are only telling you what they think you want to hear, or they're maybe not challenging you enough, or they're just reflecting back to you your high status, making you feel smart, what's the cost to you personally? What happens to your own development? What happens to your self-awareness about yourself, right? And what are the dangers to you when people treat you as special and they just affirm your status and agree with you? Well, this is dangerous, right? It leads us to have an overly inflated view of ourselves. Our self-awareness diminishes, right? We think we're doing better than we really are. This is why they say it's lonely at the top, right? When people defer, when people just don't, they don't speak up, they just, reflect back to you your greatness. We suffer from that, right? We grow through reflection. We also grow through challenge, through feedback, and we need that. We're dependent on that for our own development, and especially leaders. So this happens to individuals. It also happens to groups. I mean, think of groups that close off from any challenge or any feedback or any outside influence, right? They limit their membership to only those people who fit in or who belong. And so cultures, companies who are like this or groups who are like this become really cultish. They just limit their membership to people who fit in. And so this is one of the reasons why we have to be very careful when we say we hire for culture fit, right? I don't really like that term, right? I much prefer to be exact about it and think that what we really mean is that we're hiring for character. We don't only want people to fit in. We want that challenge, right? We need that feedback. It's really vital for our growth as individuals and also as groups. So let's go back to the lens of power. How do we make sure that through this lens of power, our power is not silencing people or shutting them down, that people do feel free to speak up, that there is the psychological safety to challenge and to disagree and to take risks, right? So as a leader, a responsible use of power means that you really understand the lens of power, that you get it, that you realize, when people don't speak up, it doesn't mean they're agreeing. And even when people agree, it doesn't mean they're agreeing, right? That people are changing their behavior towards me. So it's my responsibility to make sure that there's a sense of safety here, that people really feel they can speak up. And so it's up to us to close that gap that's created through this lens of power. And so I want to talk about some of the things that we can do to close the gap. And there's a checklist you can also download in the show notes below. So first of all, be mindful of how you talk and be mindful of when you talk. So if you want other people to speak up, if you need brainstorming or you need people to really bring their ideas in, you need to hear from other experts, you want a discussion, you're not just telling people what to do, right? Then the most important thing you can do is to not speak first. Because research shows over and over again that people will defer to the most dominant, the most senior, or the most powerful voice in the room. And if it speaks first, that's where people will go. It'll be much harder for them to bring in a different idea or to challenge the first idea that came forward. And also, don't talk most. And make sure when people are talking that there's a lot of crosstalk, that people are not just talking and directing everything to you, but they're actually engaging and having a dialogue with each other, right? So the second thing is, if you want people to speak up, start meetings with something like a check-in, right? Or introductions if people don't know each other. And the reason is that the sooner people speak in a meeting and have their voices heard, the more likely they're going to speak later throughout the meeting. That the longer it takes for someone to use their voice, the less likely it is that they're going to actually speak up, right? So get people to speak right from the beginning. The third thing is, it's not enough to invite people to speak. You know, we say the floor is open, does anybody want to say something? Or we say my door is open, or any questions, but those prompts aren't enough. That it doesn't get results, right? What makes people speak up and what makes people engage is rewarding participation, right? So when someone speaks, you have to reward it, right? I think about like animals, like dog training, right? Like somebody does something, a behavior happens, and you have to kind of give it a reward. You have to give it a treat. So how do you treat humans for speaking? By saying thanks, by saying, I hear you, or great idea. You're not agreeing with an idea when you acknowledge it. You know, when you reward participation, you're not saying, yes, I like that idea, or yes, I agree with the idea. You're saying, thanks for the input, or appreciate that, or that's an interesting perspective, or what do others think? Let's hear, you know, that's good. What do people think about that, right? So if you just say my door is open, that's not going to do it, or the floor is open, it's not going to do it. You have to actively and continually reward participation by saying thank you, thanks for speaking, or that's helpful. Even just nodding or saying mm-hmm is enough, right? Online meetings are especially bad at rewarding input, right? It's really hard to speak up. You can't really see where people's eyes are. So it's absolutely more important on an online meeting that you say something verbal, that you make a noise, that you say mm-hmm or thank you or call it out, right? So people need to be reflected when they speak, right? So you've got to do something a little bit extra there to reward that participation. And then the other thing you can do is to make speaking time equitable. Remember, speaking time will be unevenly distributed. Those with a louder voice or more dominant personalities or greater expertise or seniority or insiders, whatever it is, they're going to speak more and they're going to dominate. This is just human nature. And so if you have rank or you're leading a meeting, make sure speaking is equitable. And don't just say, anything to add or, who else hasn't spoken, but actually call on people. And this is delicate. Don't put people on the spot. Don't kind of call them out in a way that makes people feel on the spot, but say, I'd like to hear from so-and-so, or I'd like to hear from Julie. She hasn't spoken yet. Or Julie, what do you think? You have some ideas about this, or you have expertise in this area. So, and then say, I want to make sure we're not missing anything. We haven't heard yet from Julie or from Chris or whomever. And so ask people to speak up, ask to hear from them in a way, call on them. That helps make speak more equitable. The other thing you can do is ask questions yourself. Say, I don't understand that, or can I hear more about that, or I didn't fully get that, right? Show you don't have understanding, and that makes it easier for people to speak up and ask questions themselves. And then finally, one of the most important things you can do is to create a culture. If you're a leader, you're a team leader, you have some kind of rank, is to create a culture of healthy debate and disagreement. This is so important. Make it really normal, make it really healthy, and make it really productive to be able to disagree, to debate, to have conflict. And there's lots of ways to do this, lots of great conflict skills out there. Some way to do it is to have a rotating minority report role, or have a rotating role where somebody's assigned, the person who brings in the doubts or the skepticisms, or sees what other people aren't missing. Whatever it is, welcome it, assign it, train the people in your group or train the people on your team how to disagree and how to debate in really healthy, productive, and friendly ways. It doesn't have to be hostile, it doesn't have to be personal, but that's one of the very best things you can do to close that gap that happens because of the lens of power. So that's it. This brings us to the second part of the course. Class 2, we're going to look at the 3 traps of power and the 3 keys of power intelligence.